Okay, so today is a little bit of a first, subject-wise, I think, but I'm here with Vicky McKinnon. Thank you for joining me today, Vicky. I'm very grateful.
You're welcome.
And so I'm saying a first subject-wise because I've had loads of English teachers, but I haven't had any PE teachers before. So uh, tell us just briefly, why did you go into teaching? How long did you teach for? Did you rise up through the ranks, or were you just a foot soldier the whole time, or what? Just give us a brief flavour of your teaching career.
Okay, so I became a PE teacher basically because sport was pretty much the only thing I could do at school, and I wanted the long holidays, in a nutshell. But when I was younger, I moved around schools a lot, and I realised that doing sport, joining different sports clubs was the way to make friends the best. And then by doing sport all the time, I became all right at a range of different sports, and I thought I like being in school. I like being associated with schools. I like working with kids, and my passion was just to help others, just to have healthy and active lifestyles. So I went down the teaching route, and I worked in my career in four different schools. I did, my first year in one school, then moved to a different school, then got promotion to a second in PE, and also from that school, I got a secondment doing partnership development manager within the school sport partnership when that was in existence. And then at the end of that, I could either go back to where I was second in charge, or move on, or take a pay cut and lose teachers' paying conditions. So I found a new school and worked there for 10 years before I made the break. So
Okay.
within that, I did loads and loads of different roles. I taught some maths, taught some food tech, taught general studies. I was exams officer for a while. I was head of PE as a maternity cover, head of house, Duke of Edinburgh. Anything that was going, I would put my hand up and have a go at it, just to add variety and bit of responsibility, add more things to the CV, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Did you actually like teaching outside your subject area when they needed to fill your timetable up for you? Because that used to fill me with dread.
Um, I I did and I didn't like it. I didn't like I love food technology. I loved, I did home economics at A level. So I loved that, but I found it really difficult that I would, have taught a P lesson, practical subject, get all the netball posts away, then have to rush down to food tech. They wanted me to get changed so that I wasn't in my dirty PE kit. And I'm like, I physically can't do that. And then at the, when the bell goes, you've still got kids that are cakes are in the oven and you have to tidy up. So it was too much to do two practical subjects,
Yeah.
which was a shame. And the maths, when I taught maths, I just found it relentless because you have a maths lesson. I think, out of the 10 days, I was teaching maths 8 of those 10 days in a 2 week timetable. And it was just relentless and marking the books and prepping for that. And because I'm not a mathematician at all. So even though it was only year 8 middle set, I still had to refresh my mind. So I found that hard. And general studies was just a bit of a joke because my general knowledge comes from listening to Five Live on the way into school, and so I just developed a what do you think
Yeah.
style of teaching, and like today you're going to take it in turns and you're going to give us a news clip and we'll have a debate about it. That was my planning for general studies. I did not enjoy that.
No. Okay. So 18 years altogether then teaching.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how far into that did you start to think, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to do this for a whole many number of years more"?
I think it's when I had kids. So that would have been sort of with 7 years to go. And it made me think, well, I had already been thinking, I don't want to be a PE teacher for my entire career. I want to move into something where I'm not stood outside freezing cold trying to umpire a hockey match on a Saturday morning. The enthusiasm for that has completely gone. So I definitely had already thought I wanted to do a bit of a pivot and move into something else. And then when my children were born, I thought, I'm getting really fed up with this. I massively valued extracurricular, and I thought you can't be a PE teacher without doing extracurricular
Hmm.
because um, there's so much of the hidden curriculum and learning and development, all the rest of it through that. So I fully embraced that. But then I also felt I'm paying childcare for me to deliver a club. well, I'm not being paid, and this doesn't seem to equate. I can't work out. And then, having to do some weekends as well, I just got, a bit fed up. And then to add on to that, you'd get the parents that would pick the kids up late, and then you're potentially late to pick your kids up from nursery, and they're threatening you with ringing social services. I'm like, this is too much. And then I think that's when the seed was planted that I don't think I'm enjoying this anymore. And pressure. Then it was when my children came, there's pressure that you've got to put other people first, and where do you fit into the hierarchy? So you're being paid to look after other people's kids, you've got your own kids that you need to look after, and who's going to take time off work? And if I have to take time off work because my kids are sick, who's going to cover my lessons? Just all those sorts of things. It was definitely when my children came along that I sort of started thinking, I'm not sure this is for me for life.
Right. So how did you go about choosing what you were going to move into? Because what you have done
I think,
ultimately is related to,
yeah,
we'll talk about that in a minute. But at that point,
yes,
before we started recording, you said that your thinking at the time was, I'm a PE teacher, what transferable skills have I got? So talk about that a bit.
yes, absolutely. So yeah, when I was thinking, well, what else can I do? I did feel very trapped that you're on a good salary. I've been, I was at the top of the pay scale, um, and getting different responsibility, extra money for different things. So I want to earn the same kind of income, but where are my transferable skills? What can I go into that I'd still get the holidays, and B, I'd get a similar wage. And I just couldn't think where I would get it from. And then, at the same time as me having these thoughts, life at school was becoming more and more intolerable. Um, and the need to get out was rising, up to a point where I just thought, hang on a minute, if I work out how much I'm spending on the dog walker and the childcare, if I can earn myself £100 a week, then I'm exactly where I am being in this school, having to do parents' evening report writing, all the rest of it. So it's a no-brainer. And surely I can earn £100 a week doing something. And I had already been quite done a lot of exam marking and moderating. So I was marking, one year I marked 4 different papers and did exam GCSE PE moderating. So I was getting quite a good income from that. It was very condensed into one time, and didn't sleep that much for those sort of 6 weeks, but I knew it was possible. And I just then I became a personal trainer. I was already an endurance running and triathlon coach, and so I added on personal training. So I did that course, and thought, well, that's what I'll do. I'll just basically pivot, and rather than teaching kids about PE, I'll work with adults doing the same sort of thing. It's still, sharing my passion of adopting healthy and active lifestyles, and that is a transferable skill.
Can I just
Um,
can I
and
just
I Go
interject
on.
a couple of questions at
Yeah.
this point before I forget? So you said you did a PT course, personal trainer course. How did you choose which course to do? Because presumably there are a lot of course providers out there. So how did you,
Yes.
and what were the cost implications of that?
So I knew that I wanted to do it face to face rather than online. I'm not a gym person. If I was going to do any PT, I wanted it to be at somebody's house or in the garden or using things around the house. I did not want to go and work in a gym and work those hours, and that just definitely wasn't for me. So I knew that it had to be a face to face rather than online learning, so I could kind of in my head adapt it. And I wanted to meet other people and see how they were running their businesses, sort of networking and learning about the other things that we weren't going to learn on the course. And I actually went for a course that was recommended by a friend of mine who was also, she was working doing media, and she was looking to leave her job. And so she had done the same PT course. So I went with her. And the cost implication was a couple of £1,000s, I think. And in fact, I got an advanced learner loan to be able to do it. They were very keen to push this loan on me. I think they
Right.
must have
What
got
is an advanced learner loan?
it is along the same lines as a student loan, and that's about as much as I know. So I know that I have officially now got a student loan because of that.
Right.
But you don't pay it back until you earn 30,000, I think, something like that. Um, and yeah, like I say, the company was really keen for me to take this advanced learner loan, but then that meant which they weren't that clear about, that I had to do other qualifications. So on top of my PT, I then did exercise referral and diabetes and weight management courses, which I felt they pushed onto me because that was part of this advanced learning. But at the time, I was a bit naive and just thinking, oh, the more qualifications I have, the more clients I can attract.
Right. Okay. So I interrupted you, didn't I, to ask you those questions? So you were talking about you'd done the training and you were doing moderating and exam marking. So then
Yeah.
what happened after that?
So that was going all right. I was earning earning more than £100 a week, which was my sort of
Yeah,
bottom
good.
line. So I
Well,
was quite happy. I definitely was no way near earning what I would have seen in my monthly take home pay as a PE teacher, but I had the lifestyle that I was looking for. My children didn't have to go to after school club or breakfast club. I didn't have to pay for dog walker. Sometimes I walked the dogs for the dog walker and got a bit of money for that. So I just, I was perfectly happy and all was well until the pandemic hit, when my income was completely wiped out. And because I was earning money as a coach, but because that was less than 50%, I didn't get the grant from the government because I was getting an income from exam marking, but exams completely stopped, so I didn't get any money from them either. So, I went completely flatlined, and at the same time, I was also really relieved because I'm like, oh, actually, I'm not really enjoying doing that session, and I'm not really enjoying doing this. I'm not really enjoying doing that. So it gave me an opportunity to sort of rethink about what I wanted to do. And I'd had this thought for a long time about doing sports nutrition, and I thought it's now or never. So just go for it. I don't, and it was I couldn't decide where to go to do it. I wanted to do it remotely, well, predominantly remotely, and I wanted it to be spread over 2 years.
so what
And
level of qualification are we talking about here?
it was a master's, but I also wanted to pick a university that was accredited to the Sport and Exercise Nutrition Register, so that when I finished, I would go on to that register, which is like the gold standard. So there was about 7 different universities. So I spent hours and hours researching which one, went on webinars and chatted to lecturers and past students and all the rest of it. And I plumped for Leeds Beckett, knowing that I could go there face to face if we got out of the pandemic. But that was why I chose that one. And um I just thought that, what do we spend our money on? I don't go out much, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I hate shopping, I don't buy clothes. So if I want to invest the money in learning, that's what I'm going to do. So it was a bit of a pivot in my head, like, I'm spending a lot of money on this course, on myself, plus the effort to complete the course. It is a really big investment. But then I just thought, well, what else do we do with our money? I don't really go on holiday, so I'm just going to go for it. And that was it. And I found it quite challenging going back to, academia. And the first module was really difficult. It was really scientific. And, you don't realize how much academic writing skills that you lose because you never use them. So that was a really steep learning curve. But after that first term, when it became more sports nutrition related, I just really loved it,
Hmm.
and felt like I definitely made the right decision.
Yeah, it's funny you say about academic writing, because I do proofread dissertations and theses, and when I'm reading them, even undergraduate ones, I think, God, I don't know if I could write anything like this anymore. It's funny, isn't it, how
It really is.
back when you were doing it in your late teens, early 20s, you just took it for granted that you could do it, but then you stop and yeah. So, okay, so you did your masters, you got your masters, and what was the next step?
Yeah, so then I've set up a sport and exercise nutrition business. Predominantly, I'm working at the moment with endurance athletes, but after May half term, I'm going to run a course. I've linked up with a local Pilates instructor, so we're going to do a course, face-to-face course on some. Half the session will be on Pilates practical session, and then half will be either talking or doing a practical session related to nutrition for exercise, but general lifestyle. So we will incorporate sort of energy balance and how lifestyle and nutrition can help with menopausal symptoms. lifestyle changes, and then a few practical, hopefully do some practicals on sort of just easy recipes that you can do at home as alternatives to what you would buy quite expensive in the shops, that, you know, really quick alternatives.
And a really good question then. It's gone. I do this at least once every interview. I do this. I have this really good question. It was when athletes. Yes. So the triathletes that you're working with, what level are these at? Are they just normal people who, like, you know, train quite hard and push themselves quite hard and do, or are they professional athletes or semi-professional, or, you know, what sort of level are they at?
So the endurance athletes that I'm working with now are regular regular working people that do triathlon or marathon running as a hobby. So one guy, he has represented GB at age group level. He works in orthotics. So he travels once or twice a week, a really long way to go to the clinic. The rest of the time he's working from home, but he'd be doing sort of maybe 16 hours a week training on top of his day job and having two young children. So he is, you know, really, really motivated and committed. The others are more, I'd say maybe 8 hours triathlon training a week, fitting that around their busy lifestyle of a sort of 9 to 5 plus job, and family life, and, you know, everything else that it entails. So yeah, I work with an elite dressage rider who obviously competes dressage on her horses, but she also has a livery yard, so she's riding 6 horses a day and she's teaching. So you know, when we think of elite athletes, we think that all they do is a bit of training and then they sit and recover the rest of the time, and then they maybe have a massage and then maybe a little bit more training. And it, you know, in reality, maybe that's right for professional footballers, but even other elite athletes, they've got a whole load of other lifestyle things going on. So you know, energy balance is key, and then, you know, the macronutrients, and are they consuming enough carbohydrates and protein, with the commonalities that I find.
And these sessions that you're doing with the Pilates instructor, who are they aimed at?
Well, they're going to be in the day, so I guess we're looking at and I think the target market is really kind of women whose kids have, you know, they've gone to school, so they have potentially a little bit more time on their hands. Although I really recognise that 5.5 hours when they're at school, you cram in far too much, but you might have a bit of time to yourself. And also, you know, that for the previous however many years, they've, and the rest of the time outside school time, they are looking after the kids, probably their husband and animals and anything else that's going on, and it's just really something for them. And around the kind of, I'm sort of thinking sort of late 30s to plus. Women typically start putting on, as do men, start putting on weight, and some of it's hormonal, some of it's lifestyle, some of it's because you're constantly making kids food that they don't eat, and then you don't want to waste it, so you pick it at yourself. And, you know, not prioritizing yourself, so not, you know, you don't go out yourself and do any kind of exercise, you maybe don't have time to do any kind of movement, so it's, you know, hoping to create some healthy and active lifestyle habits that are easy to fit into your daily routine, and to help with long-term health, really.
Have you found that now that you've got sort of into the entrepreneur mindset, that innovative ideas for new products and new ways to help people come to you more easily than when you left teaching to 2017, I think you said it was, wasn't it? Than it was
Yeah,
doing, yeah.
yeah, I do have loads and loads of ideas, and it's particularly when you have that moment of highly motivation and real filled with enthusiasm. I have, you know, loads of different ideas, and it's a case of, right, let's just calm down and think it through, and trying to follow on with something rather than giving up too quickly, because it is really difficult starting your own business. And you know, I found that the first few months were absolutely fantastic. I thought, oh, this is it, I've definitely found it, I'm gonna fly with this business. And I've realized I've actually just been kind of making the most of my connections. And now I'm at a point where I need to find new people to help and work with. And this is when it's really difficult. And I think this point is when it would be easy just to give up and go and find a part-time job, being a teaching assistant. That would be a really good alternative, going in, helping at a school. You still get the school holidays and you don't have the responsibility of being a teacher. But I know that I wouldn't have the personal satisfaction of, it would frustrate me. I wouldn't have the motivation to do that. I feel like I'm want to create things and help people more people. So yeah, I have all these great ideas, but it is just trying to be realistic. What can I actually manage to deliver? And what do people actually want? I have these great ideas thinking this would be perfect for so and so, but do those people actually want your help? So I've been trying to work with some horse riders, and I definitely recognize that in the horsey world, people spend a fortune on horse food, and they spend hours thinking about when they're going to feed the horse, exactly what supplements they're going to have, all the rest of it, and then they don't give themselves the same privilege, and they neglect their own health, and they treat their horses better than they do themselves, and probably their dogs and cats and anyone else. And so I've been trying to get into make connections in the horse riding world. And then I was on a networking session, and this guy said to me, but do they want what you're selling? And I thought, do you know what? I don't think they do. I'm not sure horse riders want to look after themselves. They're quite happy with um, looking after their horses and grabbing what they can when they can. And just because you're passionate about it doesn't mean to say that everyone else is. And there's no reason why some people want to buy into what you're doing. They're happy as they are.
Oh, I can so relate to that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, even the complete parallel with my thing. I can look at somebody's website and think, oh God, that needs proofreading. They're like, no, it's fine like it is. Yeah. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying there. So do you think what's the thing that you found the most difficult then? Do you think making that match between a service that you've got that you really want to deliver and actually finding people who value that and want it and are prepared to invest in it?
Yes. And how can you bridge that gap? And for me, I keep thinking it's marketing and social media, and that I know that they're my areas for development, shall we say. And you definitely don't learn those skills as a PE teacher. And I've worked hard, I've watched loads of YouTube clips, all the rest of it, and I've definitely made inroads. But I know of people that have got 1 million followers on Instagram and having to close their bakery because they're not getting enough customers. So I know that's not the be all and end all, but I'm very aware of having a great product, but there's no point it being great if nobody knows about it. And it just takes time. And it's all, okay, I can grow my Instagram following very steadily and making sure it's organic rather than bought. And I'm going to different networking and meeting loads of people, which I'm really embracing, because I was definitely had massive imposter syndrome going to networking, and I thought this really isn't for me. I don't want to do it. And now I'm actually really enjoying it. When you find the right group,
Yeah.
it is actually good fun, and you meet some great people, and have some really good connections. But it all just takes a really long time, and I'm not a patient person at all.
Hmm. So what would you do? Is there anything that you would do differently if you could have the last 5 years again?
Yes, I would pick what I wanted to do and stick at it and forget about other things. I was what I somebody called it a slashy, in that when the biggest thing I felt when I left being a PE teacher was, what am I? Like, normally when people say, well, what do you do? It's straight away a PE teacher, and there's a bit of pride in that. And now I'm like, I don't know what I am. I don't have an identity, and I really struggled with that for a while. And somebody said, oh, you're a slashy because you do this and you do that and you do the next thing. I'm like, I don't want to be a
Oh,
slashy.
slashing, right, yeah. I'm a
Yeah.
this slash that
Um,
slash, right, got you.
yeah. I thought I don't want to be that. And I wish I'd had the confidence to say no to things. I mean, I didn't believe how many opportunities there would be when you leave teaching to do, as you can earn money in whatever different way you want to. There's loads of opportunities if you go looking and you do a bit of hustling. But I was so bothered about earning money that I was taking anything. And by taking any jobs, feel you can't do everything. So it took away my attention and my effort and my energy levels to work on my coaching business, which is what I at the time really wanted to do. So that for me didn't ever take off because I felt like I wasn't earning enough to kind of feel like I could spend more time on it. And because I didn't spend more time on it, I felt like it wasn't good enough. So I think and that's why I'm really trying with my nutrition business, is to really limit down what I'm doing
Mm.
and also invest in that. Because I think if you've invested in something, then you're more keen to really work at it rather than thinking, oh, it's, giving yourself all the different excuses why it hasn't worked.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's an interesting point about investment. And it's something I've gradually come around to thinking, if you set up a business that was a shop, you would invest in premises, you would invest in shop fittings, you would invest in stock. But for people like us who are supplying an intangible service, it's still perfectly justifiable for us to invest in ourselves to develop our ability to deliver that service. And yet, it's funny with freelancers, I've noticed paying to go on courses seems to be, by some, considered to be a bit of a luxury, a bit of an unnecessary expense. But it's not, is it? It's your
No.
it's your shop fittings. So it's an investment which you will get a return on. But
Yeah,
that's a mindset. I've had so many mindset shifts. I suppose you have as well since. But yeah, so that's what.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Have you got any advice that you would pass on?
Um, I I would just I mean, everything's really individualized, but I would generally say go, think about your intuition, and if your intuition is telling you to get out, then just do it. And that if you're prepared to look and hustle, then there is loads and loads of opportunities. And I definitely, I'm very much one for having all my ducks in the row before I take a step. Forget that, just crack on and do it, and things will fall into place.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter, you don't have to, okay, you get a website, but it doesn't have to all be fully functioning. You can work it out as you go along, and you can change and you can adapt and you can mold. And just I would definitely say go for it. And there are transferable skills. And now when I'm applying for sort of part-time jobs in sports nutrition, I'm being told once again, you've not got enough experience, which was getting 20 years ago as a PE teacher. You've not got enough experience, we're not going to hire you. I feel really frustrated, but I think you just need to shout about the transferable skills that you've got from a teacher. But being a teacher, you've got so many different skills. And even as a PE teacher, there are loads of transferable skills. I used to organize whole school events. I organized once a whole week of different end of term activities with groups going off to all over the place. That's a massive organizational logistical nightmare. And you
Events
do it on your
management.
own with no training.
Yeah, you could get into events management people if you're a PE teacher, definitely. Some of the best run networking events I've been to have been run by an ex-PE teacher.
Yeah,
Really well
yeah,
organized. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So I think it's just having your own self-confidence and just backing yourself.
mm, that's so interesting and really good to talk to you, Vicky. We'll end it there because Zoom is giving me that you're about to be cut off face. Not that Zoom has a face, I'm not anthropomorphizing Zoom. Anyway, I'll stop babbling. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been an
Yeah,
absolute
it's been lovely talking to
pleasure,
you.
Vicky. Thank you.
Yeah.